Welcome to Inspiring Stories. Comment where you're watching from today, as we share an incredible tale of courage and compassion that unfolded on the streets of Los Angeles, proving that heroes can appear in the most unexpected moments. On a sun-drenched afternoon in downtown Los Angeles, where the aroma of street vendor carts mingled with the exhaust of passing cars, 16-year-old Emily Walsh stood quietly beside her small flower cart. Her delicate hands arranged roses and daisies with practiced care, each bloom a testament to her determination to help support her family since her father's accident had left him unable to work. The peaceful scene was about to shatter in ways no one could have predicted, and the events that followed would become a story that would touch hearts across the city. The trouble began when the rumble of motorcycles echoed off the tall buildings. The Black Shadows, a notorious local motorcycle gang, had been making their presence felt increasingly in recent weeks, demanding protection money from street vendors. Led by Ryan Nichols, a man whose intimidating presence was matched only by his reputation for cruelty, the group of 8 riders circled Emily's cart like sharks sensing prey. Few people on the busy street dared to make eye contact with the bikers. Some hurried past, while others pretended to be absorbed in their phones. Emily stood her ground, though her hands trembled slightly as she continued arranging her flowers. Her mother had always taught her that dignity was something no one could take from you unless you let them. Ryan dismounted his bike, his heavy boots scraping against the pavement as he approached the flower cart. His leather vest, adorned with the gang's insignia, caught the afternoon sun as he loomed over Emily's modest display. "Pretty flowers," he sneered, picking up a rose and deliberately crushing its petals. "Shame if something were to happen to them." Behind him, James Callahan and Michael Drake, his 2 most aggressive lieutenants, chuckled darkly. Emily remained silent, her eyes fixed on her flowers, trying to project a calm she didn't feel. Her weekly earnings, meant to help with her father's medical bills, were tucked safely in her apron pocket. She knew what they wanted, but that money meant the difference between medicine and suffering for her dad. "I said," Ryan continued, his voice hardening, "it would be a shame. Don't you agree?" He knocked over a bucket of sunflowers, sending water splashing across the sidewalk. Still, Emily didn't respond, though tears threatened to spill from her eyes. What happened next would be talked about in downtown Los Angeles for years to come. A voice, deep and accented, cut through the tension like a knife. "I agree completely," it said. "It would be a shame if something happened to these beautiful flowers. Almost as much of a shame as what's about to happen to you if you don't step away from that cart." The gang members turned to find Arnold Schwarzenegger standing there, his presence as commanding as it had ever been on the silver screen. He had been driving past in his SUV when he noticed the scene unfolding, and something about the young girl's quiet dignity in the face of intimidation had struck a chord. Now he stood between Emily and her tormentors, his expression stern but composed. Ryan's face flickered with uncertainty for a moment before his pride got the better of him. "This isn't your business, old man. Why don't you walk away while you still can?" The other gang members spread out, trying to create an intimidating circle around both Arnold and the flower cart. Arnold's response was delivered with the same calm confidence that had made him a legend. "Everything that happens on these streets is my business. I've served as governor of this state, but more importantly, I've been a champion of justice my entire life. Now, would you like to rethink your approach to this situation?" The gang members exchanged glances, their bravado wavering as they recognized who they were dealing with. But Ryan, too proud to back down, made the mistake of reaching for Emily's cart again. Arnold's hand shot out, catching Ryan's wrist in a grip that made the younger man's eyes widen in surprise. "Let me tell you something about strength," Arnold said, his voice carrying to the growing crowd of onlookers who had stopped to witness the confrontation. "Real strength isn't about intimidating those who can't fight back. It's about protecting those who need protection. Something you boys seem to have forgotten." By now, several bystanders had their phones out, recording the scene. Among them was Daniel Pierce, a local news reporter who happened to be passing by. The story was already taking shape in his mind. Arnold Schwarzenegger stands up to biker gang to protect young flower seller. Ryan tried to pull his hand away, but Arnold's grip remained firm. "Here's what's going to happen," Arnold continued, his voice level but carrying an undeniable authority. You're going to apologize to this young lady. You're going to pay for the flowers you destroyed. And then you're going to leave, knowing that if I ever hear about you harassing street vendors again, our next conversation won't be nearly as pleasant. The other gang members began to back away, their earlier confidence evaporating under the steady gaze of someone who had faced down far worse threats both on screen and in real life. Ryan, finally released from Arnold's grip, rubbed his wrist while trying to maintain some semblance of dignity. "This isn't over," he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Arnold merely smiled, the kind of smile that had preceded some of his most famous action scenes. "For your sake," he replied, "I hope it is." As the gang members mounted their bikes and roared away, the crowd that had gathered burst into applause. Emily, still trembling slightly, looked up at her unexpected protector with tears of gratitude in her eyes. Arnold helped her pick up the scattered flowers, personally replacing each ruined bloom with far more money than they were worth. But he wasn't finished. Turning to the crowd, Arnold spoke in a voice that carried the weight of both authority and compassion. "In our city, we take care of each other. Today, I'm challenging everyone here to buy at least one flower. Show this brave young lady that in Los Angeles, kindness and courage still matter more than intimidation." The response was immediate. Led by Catherine Adams, a local business owner who had witnessed the entire scene, people began lining up to buy flowers. Within minutes, Emily's cart was nearly empty, and her apron pocket was heavy with honest earnings rather than protection money. The story spread rapidly through social media and local news, with Daniel Pierce's coverage leading the way. But what happened next would transform this moment of standing up to bullies into something even more meaningful for the community. Arnold didn't simply walk away after his good deed. He spent time talking with Emily, learning about her father's situation and the challenges her family faced. By the end of the day, he had not only ensured her immediate safety but had set in motion plans to help other street vendors who faced similar intimidation. "You know," he told Emily as the sun began to set, "your father taught you well about dignity. But let me add something to that lesson. Dignity isn't just about standing tall in the face of threats. It's also about having the courage to accept help when it's offered with a good heart." Emily's story became a symbol of hope for many in the city. The image of Arnold Schwarzenegger, standing protectively beside a flower cart, reminded everyone that heroes don't always need special effects or scripted lines. Sometimes, they just need the courage to step up when others step back. Has someone ever stood up for you when you needed it most? Share your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring real-life moments that remind us that the greatest acts of heroism often happen in the most ordinary places. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where we'll see how this simple act of standing up to bullies transforms into a movement that changes not just Emily's life, but the lives of street vendors across Los Angeles. Remember, true strength isn't measured by how much power you have, but by how you use it to help others. The morning after Arnold Schwarzenegger's confrontation with the Black Shadows gang, downtown Los Angeles buzzed with an energy it hadn't felt in years. Daniel Pierce's news report had gone viral overnight, and the video of Arnold standing up to the bikers had already garnered millions of views. But what happened next would transform this single act of courage into something far more powerful. Emily Walsh arrived at her usual corner early that morning, her flower cart freshly stocked but her heart still racing from the previous day's events. She was surprised to find several other street vendors waiting for her, including Robert Hayes, who sold handmade jewelry 2 blocks down, and Maria Foster, whose tamale cart had been a neighborhood fixture for over a decade. "We saw what happened yesterday," Robert said, his weathered face showing both concern and admiration. "For months, we've all been too afraid to speak up about the Black Shadows. But if Arnold Schwarzenegger thinks we're worth fighting for, maybe it's time we fought for ourselves." The vendors had barely finished sharing their stories when a familiar SUV pulled up to the curb. Arnold stepped out, accompanied by William Parker, the district attorney, and Lisa Walton, a community organizer known for her work in neighborhood protection programs. "I made a promise yesterday," Arnold announced to the gathering crowd, "that the harassment of street vendors would end. Today, we're going to make sure that promise becomes reality." His presence drew more attention, and soon local residents and business owners began to gather, including Catherine Adams, who had led the flower-buying movement the previous day. The impromptu meeting quickly evolved into something larger. Lisa Walton pulled out her tablet, documenting each vendor's story of intimidation. William Parker listened intently, his expression growing darker with each account of the gang's extortion attempts. But it was Arnold who held everyone's attention, his famous voice carrying authority as he outlined a plan of action. "The first step in defeating any enemy is standing together," he declared. "Each of you has been fighting this battle alone, but that ends today." He turned to Emily, whose quiet strength had inspired this movement. "Your courage yesterday showed us all what's possible when someone refuses to back down." As the morning progressed, more people joined the gathering. Jennifer Woods, a local tech entrepreneur, offered to create a free app that would allow vendors to alert each other and law enforcement of any gang activity. Michael Drake, one of Ryan's former lieutenants, approached the group cautiously, his leather jacket missing its gang insignia. "I want out," Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What happened yesterday? It made me realize we've become everything we used to hate." Arnold's response was measured but encouraging. "Redemption begins with a single step in the right direction." The crowd's attention shifted as the rumble of motorcycles filled the air. The Black Shadows had returned, but this time they faced not a single flower vendor, but a united community. Ryan Nichols led his diminished group, trying to project confidence despite the obvious absence of several members, including Michael. Arnold stepped forward, positioning himself once again between the gang and the vendors. But this time, he wasn't alone. Catherine Adams stood beside him, along with dozens of other community members. William Parker pulled out his phone, deliberately recording every movement of the gang members. "You just don't know when to quit, do you?" Ryan snarled, but his voice lacked yesterday's conviction. The sight of his former lieutenant standing with the vendors had clearly shaken him. Arnold's response was calm but carried an edge of steel. "Actually, that's one of the things I'm known for. Not quitting. Whether it's winning Mr. Universe, becoming a Hollywood star, serving as governor, or protecting the people of this city. The question is, do you know when to quit?" The confrontation that followed would be remembered as the moment everything changed. As Ryan moved aggressively toward Arnold, several phones recorded his every move. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The remaining gang members began to back away, leaving their leader increasingly isolated. "This is your last chance," Arnold declared, his voice carrying across the now silent street. "Leave these people alone, or the next headlines won't just be about me stopping you. They'll be about your arrest and conviction for organized criminal activity." William Parker here has enough evidence from today alone to make sure you spend a very long time thinking about your choices. The gang leader's facade finally cracked. Looking around at the united front before him, at the cameras recording his every move, at his dwindling support, Ryan Nichols made the first wise choice of his life. He backed down. As the Black Shadows roared away for the last time, the crowd erupted in cheers. But Arnold quickly redirected their enthusiasm toward constructive action. Together with Lisa Walton and Jennifer Woods, he helped establish the Street Vendors Protection Network, a community-based organization that would ensure no vendor ever had to face intimidation alone again. Michael Drake's decision to leave the gang inspired others. Over the next few days, several more gang members approached William Parker, offering information in exchange for a chance to make amends. The district attorney worked with them, understanding that redemption and justice could work hand in hand. Emily's flower cart became a symbol of the community's transformation. Each bloom she sold represented not just beauty, but resilience. Arnold made sure her father received the medical care he needed, connecting the Walsh family with specialists who could help with his recovery. The most powerful moment came a week later, when Arnold returned to find the street transformed. Vendors operated without fear, their carts decorated with fresh paint and new signs. Local businesses had set up a rotating schedule to provide free meals to the vendors who had endured so much. The community had rediscovered its strength. "You know," Arnold said to Emily as they stood beside her now thriving flower cart, "people often ask me about my greatest achievements. They expect me to talk about movies or politics. But it's moments like this, seeing a community stand up and reclaim its dignity, that make me most proud." Emily's response reflected the wisdom she had gained through this experience. "You taught us that strength isn't just about muscles or power. It's about having the courage to stand up for what's right and the compassion to help others stand up too." The story of the flower vendor and the action star had become something larger than either of them. It was a testament to the power of community, the importance of standing together, and the truth that real heroes don't just fight battles, they inspire others to find their own strength. Jennifer Wood's app became a model for community protection programs across the country. Lisa Walton's organization expanded to help street vendors in other cities. Even William Parker found his approach to justice transformed, focusing more on rehabilitation and community building than simple punishment. As for Michael Drake, his decision to leave the gang led him down an unexpected path. With Arnold's encouragement, he started working with at-risk youth, sharing his story as a warning and a promise that it's never too late to choose a better way. The Black Shadow's reign of terror had ended not just because of Arnold Schwarzenegger's intervention, but because he had shown an entire community how to stand together against intimidation. The lesson was clear: true strength lies not in the ability to instill fear, but in the courage to inspire hope. Have you ever witnessed a community come together to overcome a common threat? Share your stories of unity and courage in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales of everyday heroes who prove that together, we can accomplish extraordinary things. Stay tuned for Chapter 3, where we'll see how this local movement grows into something that catches the attention of the entire nation, and how Emily's simple flower cart becomes a symbol of hope for communities everywhere. Remember, real change begins when ordinary people find the extraordinary courage to stand up for what's right. The story of Arnold Schwarzenegger's stand against the Black Shadows had spread far beyond Los Angeles, igniting a national conversation about community empowerment and the responsibility of celebrities to effect real change. But as the morning sun rose over Emily Walsh's flower cart 3 weeks after the initial confrontation, no one could have predicted the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. Emily arrived at her corner to find a surprise: a sleek news van from a national network, with reporter Rachel Bennett preparing for a live broadcast. The flower cart revolution, as social media had dubbed it, had caught the attention of millions. But not all attention brings positive change, as they were about to discover. The first warning came from Michael Drake, the former gang member who had chosen redemption over violence. He arrived breathless at Emily's cart, his face etched with concern. "They're coming back," he warned. "Not just the Black Shadows, other gangs too. They're saying we can't let some Hollywood hero change the rules of the street." Before Emily could respond, the rumble of motorcycles filled the air. But this time, it wasn't just Ryan Nichols and his dwindling crew. Bikes bearing the colors of 3 different gangs appeared, led by the notorious Jason Burke, whose reputation for violence made Ryan look tame in comparison. Rachel Bennett's camera crew turned to capture the confrontation, but Emily noticed something else. Residents and business owners were emerging from their shops and homes, phones raised, documenting everything. The Street Vendors Protection Network app, created by Jennifer Woods, was already alerting the community. Well, Jason sneered, dismounting his bike. "Looks like this little flower girl's got herself quite a fan club. But where's your movie star protector now?" His gang members spread out, creating an intimidating circle around the growing crowd. The answer came not from Arnold but from the community itself. Catherine Adams stepped forward, her business suit incongruous among the leather-clad bikers. "He taught us we don't need protection," she declared. "He taught us we have the power to protect ourselves." William Parker, the district attorney, emerged from his parked car, accompanied by several plainclothes officers. "And he taught us that the law works best when communities stand behind it," he added, his phone already recording the scene. Jason laughed, but the sound carried a note of uncertainty. "You think some app and some cameras scare us? We've run these streets for years. No amount of community spirit changes that." That's when a familiar Austrian accent cut through the tension. "Actually, it changes everything." Arnold Schwarzenegger stepped out of his SUV, but this time he wasn't alone. With him was Lisa Walton, now directing the expanded Street Vendors Protection Network, and someone else, Police Chief Robert Hayes. "You see," Arnold continued, addressing not just the gangs but the watching news cameras, "what happened here 3 weeks ago wasn't about me. It was about showing people their own strength. And strength, once discovered, doesn't just disappear." Jason took a threatening step forward, but froze as dozens of phones captured his every move. Behind him, several of his own gang members began to shift uncomfortably. The power dynamic had changed and everyone could feel it. Chief Hayes spoke next, his voice carrying years of authority. "We've got documented evidence of extortion, assault, and organized criminal activity. Thanks to the community's cooperation, we're not just making arrests today, we're shutting down operations across the city." The scene that unfolded became instant viral footage. As police units rolled in, the gang members faced a choice: surrender peacefully or risk everything. One by one, they looked at the united community before them, at the cameras recording every moment, at Arnold standing as a symbol of what one person's courage could inspire, and they chose to stand down. But the real story was just beginning. Rachel Bennett's live coverage captured something unprecedented. Former gang members, following Michael Drake's example, removing their colors and walking across the invisible line to stand with the community. The symbolism was powerful, a physical representation of choosing a better path. Arnold's response to this transformation was characteristic of his leadership style. "Each of you," he addressed the former gang members, "has just taken the hardest step on a new journey. But you won't walk it alone." He announced the creation of the Second Chance Initiative, a program to help former gang members reintegrate into society through education, job training, and community service. Emily's flower cart, once a target of intimidation, became a symbol of this transformation. She offered a flower to each former gang member who chose to leave their colors behind, a gesture that Rachel Bennett's cameras captured in powerful close-ups. "Every petal represents a new beginning," Emily explained to the national audience. "That's what flowers have always meant to me, hope blooming even in difficult places." The story took another unexpected turn when Jason Burke himself, the man who had come to crush the community's resistance, found himself moved by the scene before him. His tough exterior cracked as he watched his own members choosing a different path. "I've been fighting my whole life," he admitted, his voice catching. "Never thought I'd find more strength in laying down arms than picking them up." Arnold's response was both compassionate and challenging. The strongest person in a fight isn't the one who hits hardest, but the one who knows when to stop fighting and start building. Today, you have that chance. The transformation of Los Angeles's street vendor community became a model for cities across the nation. Jennifer Woods' protection app was adopted by communities facing similar challenges. Lisa Walton traveled to share the organizational strategies that had united vendors and residents. William Parker's approach to community-based justice inspired other prosecutors to rethink their methods. But perhaps the most profound change was visible in the small moments that followed. Former gang members working alongside vendors they had once terrorized. Community members who had lived in fear now walking the streets with confidence. And Emily's flowers, blooming more beautifully than ever, each sale a reminder of the day when courage and compassion proved stronger than intimidation. Arnold continued to visit regularly, not as a celebrity or former governor, but as a member of the community he had helped transform. "You know," he told Emily one afternoon, "people often talk about my movie catchphrases. But the most powerful words I've ever heard were when you told that first gang member, 'My flowers aren't for sale through fear.'" The national media coverage sparked a movement. Communities across America began reaching out, asking how they could replicate the Los Angeles model of community empowerment. Arnold, along with Emily and the other key figures in the transformation, began developing a blueprint for change that any community could follow. "The key," Arnold explained in a widely shared interview, "isn't waiting for a hero to save you. It's realizing that heroes exist within every community, just waiting for the moment to stand up and make a difference." The black shadows, once a symbol of fear, became a cautionary tale, a reminder of how quickly power built on intimidation can crumble when faced with united resistance. Ryan Nichols, from his jail cell, gave interviews warning young people about the dead-end path of gang life. Have you witnessed a moment when someone's courage inspired others to stand up against intimidation? Share your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales of communities coming together to create positive change. Stay tuned for Chapter 4, where we'll see how this local revolution spreads across the nation, and how Emily's simple stand for dignity transforms into a movement that changes lives far beyond the streets of Los Angeles. Remember, every great change begins with a single act of courage, and every person has the power to inspire others to find their strength. 6 months after Arnold Schwarzenegger first stood beside a flower cart in downtown Los Angeles, the transformation that began on those streets had blossomed into something extraordinary. As dawn broke over the city, Emily Walsh wasn't just preparing her flowers for another day of sales, she was getting ready for the first National Street Vendors Empowerment Conference, where her simple stand for dignity would inspire thousands. The conference center buzzed with energy as delegates from 30 different cities gathered to learn from what the media now called the Los Angeles Miracle. Emily, once a shy teenage flower vendor, now stood confidently beside Arnold on the stage, preparing to address an audience that included community leaders, reformed gang members, and law enforcement officials from across the country. "When I first started selling flowers," Emily began, her voice steady and clear, "I never imagined I'd be here. But sometimes the smallest stand for dignity can spark the biggest changes." The crowd listened intently as she shared her story, but it was what happened next that would make headlines across the nation. Jason Burke, the former gang leader who had once come to crush their movement, stepped up to the podium. His leather jacket was gone, replaced by a business suit, but the strength in his presence remained. "6 months ago, I was the enemy of everything this movement stands for," he admitted. "Today, I'm here to tell you how it changed not just my life, but the lives of countless others." Arnold watched from the side of the stage, his face reflecting pride not in his own role, but in how these ordinary people had transformed their moment of courage into lasting change. When he finally stepped up to speak, his words carried the weight of experience and hope. "Many of you know me from movies where I played the hero," he began, his familiar accent drawing warm smiles from the audience. "But true heroism isn't about one person fighting alone. It's about communities standing together, about choosing hope over fear, and about believing that every person has the power to create positive change." The success stories shared that day were remarkable. Michael Drake, now running a successful youth outreach program, described how former gang members were becoming community leaders. Jennifer Woods presented data showing how her protection app had reduced street crime by 60% in participating neighborhoods. Lisa Walton detailed the expansion of the Street Vendors Protection Network to 15 new cities. But it was William Parker's presentation that truly captured the scale of their achievement. "In the past 6 months," the district attorney reported, "we've seen a 70% drop in gang-related activities. Not because of increased police presence or stricter laws, but because communities learned to stand together. When people stop being victims and start being advocates for change, the whole dynamic of crime and punishment transforms." The conference was interrupted by unexpected news. Ryan Nichols, the former Black Shadows leader serving time for his crimes, had written a letter to be read to the attendees. The room fell silent as Catherine Adams began to read. "6 months ago, I thought strength meant making others fear you. Today, from my cell, I watch on TV as the community I once terrorized grows stronger through unity and courage. To every young person thinking about joining a gang, remember this: the power to intimidate is nothing compared to the power to inspire." The letter's impact was profound, but what happened next was even more powerful. Robert Hayes, the police chief who had helped coordinate the original community response, unveiled a new initiative, the Community Transformation Task Force, a nationwide program combining law enforcement, community leadership, and rehabilitation services. "We're not just stopping crime," Chief Hayes explained, "we're preventing it by building stronger communities." And it all started because one man stood beside one flower vendor and showed us all what real strength looks like. Arnold took the opportunity to announce the expansion of the Second Chance Initiative, now supported by major corporations offering job training and employment opportunities to former gang members. When we first started this program, he shared, many people said it wouldn't work. Today, we have a 90% success rate in helping former gang members build new lives. The afternoon sessions showcased practical applications of the Los Angeles model. Rachel Bennett, whose initial news coverage had helped spread the story, moderated a panel discussion where community leaders shared strategies for implementing change in their own cities. Jennifer Woods demonstrated the latest version of her community protection app, now enhanced with features suggested by users across the country. Technology is important, she explained, but it's the human connection that makes it work. Each alert, each response, represents people choosing to stand together. Lisa Walton presented a comprehensive guide for communities facing similar challenges. The Los Angeles model works, she emphasized, because it's not about waiting for heroes to save us. It's about becoming the heroes our communities need. As the day progressed, more success stories emerged. A vendor from Chicago described how they'd adapted the model to protect small businesses in troubled neighborhoods. A community leader from Houston shared how former gang territories had been transformed into thriving market areas. Each story reinforced the power of the movement's core message: unity conquers fear. The most touching moment came when Emily's father, now recovered enough to attend the conference, joined her on stage. "My daughter's flowers," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "taught us all that beauty can bloom even in the darkest places if we have the courage to protect it." Arnold's closing speech brought together all the themes of their journey. "Today, we're not just celebrating what happened in Los Angeles," he declared. "We're celebrating what happens when ordinary people discover their extraordinary potential. Every person in this room has the power to be a hero in their own community." The conference concluded with a powerful gesture, hundreds of former gang members from across the country ceremonially surrendering their colors, exchanging them for flowers from Emily's cart. The symbolism was unmistakable: the death of intimidation and the birth of hope. But the real work was just beginning. As the delegates returned to their communities, they carried with them more than just strategies and success stories. They carried the understanding that true change doesn't come from outside heroes. It comes from communities discovering their own strength. In the months that followed, the movement continued to grow. Emily's flower cart became a national symbol, reproduced on posters promoting community empowerment. The app developed by Jennifer Woods was adopted by police departments nationwide. The Second Chance initiative expanded to include educational programs and small business loans for former gang members. Arnold remained involved, not as a celebrity figurehead, but as an active participant in the ongoing transformation. "You know," he told Emily during a quiet moment at her flower cart, "in all my movies, the hero wins by fighting alone. But what we've created here is so much more powerful, a community where everyone can be a hero." The Los Angeles model became a blueprint for social change, studied in universities and adapted by cities worldwide. But perhaps its greatest legacy was in the small, daily victories. The former gang member opening a legitimate business, the vendor operating without fear, the community standing together against any threat to its peace. Have you seen the power of community transform your neighborhood? Share your stories of unity and courage in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales of ordinary people creating extraordinary change. Remember, as Arnold Schwarzenegger and Emily Walsh showed us, it doesn't take supernatural strength to be a hero. It just takes the courage to stand up for what's right and the wisdom to stand together. In every community, on every street corner, the potential for positive change is waiting to bloom, just like Emily's flowers.